Hello, drinking and driving listeners. We are back with the 21st race recap today. Pocono, the Great American Race, and it was a decent one at best. Now, there were some highlights and there were some lowlights, but we are gonna get into that. But more importantly, Dick, it's great to be with you again. I feel like we need to start podcasting more often because I can't stand to not talk to you this long.
Yeah, it's so sad being away from you.
Oh,
I feel like we need to make this a daily thing. We
yeah,
gotta drink on the daily, drink and drive, and talk NASCAR.
right,
Talk
yeah.
really anything. It's
We could
fine.
really talk anything. I'm actually very excited for this Olympic break coming up here because we're going to have 2 weeks in a row where we can podcast as little or as much as we want and we can just kind of let loose. We'll throw in a little bit of NASCAR, but I think we're going to do some special stuff for the listeners. Maybe play some video games while we're drinking
Do some
live or,
NASCAR video games.
well,
Maybe even throw in like a bonus Olympic drinking and driving episode.
yeah,
Watch
absolutely.
some like badminton or something and get really into it.
Something crazy. I mean, there's just the options are endless, and it's gonna set us up very nicely for the end of the season, refreshed, get into the last four races of the regular season, and then just be dialed in for the playoffs. And then once that happens, we are not quitting for the off season like we did before. Yeah, we may be a little bit less consistent about our posting, but we are not gonna be away from it too long. Little less NASCAR, a lot more shenanigans, and I can't wait for that. Yeah, tune in during the Olympic break. That would be July 28th through August 4th. So make sure you're ready for that. Tune in, and you will get a good preview of what is to come and why you guys need to like and subscribe this podcast so you get an update every time we post a new episode. So that is it. That is our only promo here. Now let's just sit back and have a good time. And I think we need to start with a beverage, don't we?
Yeah, what you got going into this week?
What do you think? I've been trying to finish this Hornitas lime shot
Still the
drink. I
Hornitos.
mean, the only time I ever drink this is a shot or two per episode, and I just rip one right out of the bottle. Other than that, I hate this stuff. I just can't wait till this is done. Maybe I'll try to finish this before
The
um
end of this episode.
oh no,
You
I
can
was
get a
gonna
half a
say
bottle done.
I was gonna say by the end of the regular season, so we can double down and get something good for the playoffs. Um, but to be honest, I'm super cheap, and when I get there, I might end up buying the same stuff. It was like $19. But here we go. I'm gonna take the shot. You tell the listeners what you're drinking. Oh, while I take this one.
Yeah, I'm drinking this mudslide in honor of Indianapolis Motor Speedway Week. And you know what they drink after they win the Indy 500?
Oh, hell yeah, I do. That white
They drink
nectar,
some milk. So,
little white
in honor
nectar
of
there.
milk drinkers, I'm doing this mudslide, which has no milk in it at all. I just
But it's creamy.
learned today. But it is creamy. It tastes like milk, tastes like chocolate milk. And I'm getting ready for this awesome race.
I have a question.
I
You
might have
can
an answer.
yeah, you can drink that while I ask the question. So, what if your face just cringed up when you took a
This
sip?
this
That's
is from
priceless.
Easter egg hunting.
Oh god.
Easter's Easter egg hunt, and we would always put out the little shooters for the adults. So this
Yeah.
is still from Easter. So you say you're cheap, and I'm the one drinking this from like 2 years ago, and I hope it's still okay. It does not taste good.
All right, my question was, Indianapolis 500 winner drinks a milk. What if Bubba Wallace would? Would he drink a mudslide or chocolate milk?
Why would you say that?
I just know that he's a big chocolate fan. He's got a sweet tooth.
Okay, yeah. No, I could see him drink chocolate milk for sure.
That's cool. That's cool.
And it's not the Indianapolis 500; it's the Indy
Well,
400,
well,
basically.
that's what
The
I mean. It's
Brickyard
the
400. So yeah, you change it up a little bit. Have some
Well,
chocolate
I
milk.
I just mean,
Kiss the
if
bricks.
he would have, pulled a, Kyle Larson went into the Indianapolis 500, but I know what you're saying. But
If I won the Brickyard, I would get a beer from the fans and then just do a luge down the bricks.
wow, that needs to happen. That actually needs to happen. I can't believe no one has done that yet. I don't know what the banking is on the bricks though. You might be just like kind of slopping it up,
Yeah,
but
it's fine. Just people
I
looking it
don't
up.
think it's very slanted there. But I know that we discussed this and we wanted to break out and do a drink of the week for the famous Indianapolis, well, a famous Indianapolis drink, just to kind of round out the culture of this race. Yeah, anything milk based that'd be great, but I have a Hoosier Heritage. That is the Indiana's unofficial signature cocktail, and it debuted at the Indianapolis 500 in some of the more premier clubs in 2015. Actually won a contest to be the unofficial signature cocktail, and I'll give you the reason why. So first, you start with some Knob Creek whiskey. The reason you do Knob Creek whiskey is Abraham Lincoln moved to Indiana from Knob Creek Farm. So you start with the Knob Creek to have a little bit of heritage there with the Abe Lincoln move. And then you go with Indiana famous maple syrup, lemon juice, and then fresh apple cider. And I was just thinking about that without ever tasting it. I think that would be such a great drink for the fall. Like think of it at a football tailgate or something like that when it gets a little cold. You could warm it up a little bit. I mean, you got bourbon, you got maple syrup, lemon juice, and apple cider. That's just like
No, that sounds
perfect.
amazing warm when you're freezing your ass off at a football game or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Too bad. Like I know we really do dip into the winter. I mean, just on the verge of winter and fall for the NASCAR season, but it just seems like we always are in the hot areas for the end. So you got Atlanta, which is going to be hot in September, obviously. Well, we'll skip down to October. Talladega is going to be hot in October. You got Charlotte, which is probably your chilliest race on October 13th. Las Vegas is going to be a scorcher. Miami, hot. Martinsville, you could have a little bit of chill, and that you could break out the drink there. Not too much, but then Phoenix in the desert again. So we don't really lend ourselves to like the classic fall tailgates where it gets a little cold and like you bundle up, but you're drinking a shit ton, so it doesn't really matter. And this drink would just fit so perfectly, I think.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of whole northern racetracks. I think like Iowa got a little cold this year. That was pretty much it, and still it was like in the 50s
Right.
at the start.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the timing of these races too. Like, they do set a lot of these colder areas up for like midsummer, and so they're still hot. But let's go over some NASCAR news that had broken this week. Number one, I think this is going to be the biggest, other than Trump getting shot, which is way
Nobody
bigger
cares about
news.
that
But
anymore.
yeah, I mean, we're on Wednesday now, and no one's even talking about it anymore. But NASCAR news: Cole Custer will come back to the Cup Series. He will be the first driver on the new Haas factory team, which is going to stem from the former Stewart Haas team. We talked about that a few episodes back. So Cole Custer will be their first full time. Um, full-time cup driver next year. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
exciting
excited for
for him.
that. Yeah, we
He's our
met him
buddy.
last year. He's a good guy. Um, he's a very consistent Xfinity racer. He's always in the top 5, top 10 it seems like. And he finally got his first win of the season last week. So I think he'll be a good fit, and I think he'll hold his own in the Cup Series.
There we go. And to fill in his spot at the double zero team in the Xfinity, unfortunately, we're going to lose Ryan Preece from the Cup Series next year. I could see him filling in a few races or getting a few charter races, but Ryan Preece will not be full time Cup next year. After the year he's had, I couldn't care less about this.
Yeah, what I don't know what you meant by unfortunately.
Well,
I
it's
think it's a
unfortunate to
good thing to
him.
get him out.
Anytime that
Unfortunate to
you
him.
anytime that you have to bounce up and down, like that's unfortunate. And but Ryan Preece having that gnarly wipeout last year at Daytona, flipping what like 15 or 18 times, whatever it was. I just feel like it wasn't probably from the injury, but I think he hasn't been a consistent solid racer since then. He had a decent year last year. I say decent relative because he was like a really good back half driver. I'd say, and now I don't think we picked him maybe once or twice throughout the entire season. So Ryan Priest driving the 00 for Cole Custer. Next is probably one of the big names. I don't know how much people are following it, but I think it was like clickbait at the beginning when Haley Deegan left, uh, or is it AR or whatever
AM
motorsports,
Racing.
AM Racing. That was a big deal, and just like that, she got picked up this week by Nitro Motorsports, and so she will still be an Xfinity full time driver, which is good for her. I know what's his name, Kevin Harvick, had some choice words to say about that today on his podcast. He was real thrilled with her leaving the Toyota development program in the first place. When she went to the AR, what the hell is it? AM
AM
Motorsports,
Racing,
AM
they're
Racing.
the Fords, and
Yes.
yeah, Kevin was saying, yeah, the Fords don't really even have a development team, so it was kind of ballsy on her part to go over there. But I mean, you got to take the opportunity when you get it and get the bag when you can. I don't know if
Well,
they were giving her more money or anything.
I'm sure she got more money, but it goes to the same point we talked about last year. I don't think she was ready to make the move. She just was a sponsorship like uh, golden child, and I unfortunately think that she may have she should have probably taken a step back, got her racing squared away, and then came back to the Xfinity series. I think at this point she was pretty much going to be open to come back when she wanted. But instead, well, she is. She's obviously back now, but I think she could have taken a little bit of time first.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. I think she was brought up to the Xfinity a little too quick. I think she had still a lot to learn in truck series and the other series. But again, like you get that opportunity, you just got to take it. You're her, you can't blame her. But yeah, I think she could probably benefit a little bit more if she, backed up a little bit, go back to trucks, figure it out, and then maybe next year or 2 years from now, like get back into Xfinity and then work your way back up. I think the learning curve is a bit steep, and yeah, but I'm excited to see her and see if she could learn from her mistakes a little bit and carry on her experience till next year.
Yeah. All right. The last bit of news that I had was, I mean, I could really wait until we preview Indy here, but Caitlin Clark is on Josh Berry's hood of his car.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of wild. I mean, Caitlin Clark took the world by storm this year, and now she's going cross functional into NASCAR, which is going to be kind of cool, but a little weird if he crashes that car and, you know, I don't know if he like hits the wall dead on, like head on, and just like fucks his car. He just fucked Caitlin Clark, and I think that'd be kind of
I'm sure
funny
he'll
to
be
do.
fine with fucking Caitlin Clark.
I'm sure. Well, the year that Josh Berry's having, he might be able to actually fuck Caitlin Clark. Yeah, he's the front runner in the rookie of the year, and good ups on Josh Berry this year.
Yeah,
Caitlin
had
Clark,
a
if you're listening, because I know you're a big fan, not really, but yeah, I don't mean he's gonna fuck Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying you're easy.
now Caitlin Clark, the Iowa native turned Indiana Fever WNBA player.
Yeah, that was
Big fan
really
of the
smooth
pod.
of you saying that, because I would have never been able to say anything like that. I know she plays basketball. All right.
Biggest face in the WNBA.
Yeah,
And you forgot to mention probably my favorite bit of news. Richmond race will have two types of tires that you can choose from. They're going to have a softs, and then they're going to have the prime tires. So softs will degrade a bit more, little bit faster, and then the primes will last longer. It's pretty much the baseline tire of this year. So there's going to be a whole different type of strategy that we'll see at Richmond. And Richmond is already a type of track where you see a lot of tire wear. So this is just gonna feed into that strategy, and it's gonna be an awesome race, I think now.
yeah, I'm excited because Richmond is traditionally one of the lowest rated tracks and lowest rated fan engagement, and so this could help save Richmond. Because I feel like they're on the verge of going one race a year.
Yeah, and we just talked about this, I think, last episode of what like could make Richmond more exciting, and we talked about the half dirt, half asphalt race,
That'd be so
and
sweet.
at least they're doing something to make that race more interesting. And I think this will be a good step. We talked about this very early in the season too, that NASCAR should have multiple tire options
That's
in a
right.
race, and they're actually bringing that to life, which is really cool. We haven't seen that other than Chicago when you could pick from the slicks and the wets.
Are you starting to think that maybe some high ups in NASCAR are listening to this podcast and making their rules?
100%.
Because I mean, it
100%.
seems like we say something one week and then 2, 3, 4 weeks later, it comes out that it went
Yeah.
public. So now let's just hope that Sam Mayer gets a cup spot. I've been saying that for 3 weeks. I bet you, as soon as we post this, he's gonna get the announce. All right, so Pocono. We mentioned that we were in our home states of Pennsylvania this week. And Ty Gibbs gets a great start and gets on pole, but unfortunately, that's about all he had. Um,
Yeah, Ty Gibbs looked fast
he did.
going in qualifying, and still like throughout the first couple stages, he was still up in top five until his engine pretty much blew out. Some type of milk was falling out of the
Yeah.
exhaust.
Yeah, he had some like crazy oil water mixture. Something blew up, came out there. It really did look like what you're drinking right now, that mudslide. Um, but that was definitely one for the books. I never saw anything like that. So it made a lot of memes and so I'm glad that that happened, but I'm still betting on Gibbs to get his win. He's sitting 13th. No, he's in the playoffs right now. If the season ended right now, but one of those guys that's not solidified with a win. So he needs to keep getting those points and hopefully getting a win. So that DNF does not help.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I was finally on Ty Gibbs going into this weekend. Made some bets on him. Didn't quite pan out, but it was still a great bet because he was still one of the faster cars in the group.
That's right. Speaking of fast cars, I think that Kyle Larson had this race in the bag after turn 3 when I forget who it was. Someone wrecked, I think maybe it was Chastain. Someone wrecked in the beginning of stage 3 and everyone a restart, a caution and Larson and Chase Elliott had a phenomenal pit stop where they gained I think 6 and 8 spots respectively to get out of the pits first and fourth. So big move. And because of what looks to be a issue with the timing system, Chase Elliott was caught speeding 0.16 miles per hour over the speed limit, and Kyle Larson was just over that, which sends him back to the back of the pack. I think Kyle Larson had the race in the bag if they would have kept going. And
Yeah,
sorry, unless he was speeding.
but in true Kylar fashion, he makes big mistakes every now and again. A lot of the time, it seems like as of late. But he is one of the best drivers
I mean, he
in
still has 3
NASCAR,
wins on the
so he
year.
could do it. Yeah, he's very aggressive. I mean, you're trying to get as much as you can out of a pit road stop. So you're trying to get as close to that speed limit as possible. You could go a little bit over. You go. Um, it depends on how well you calibrate your speeds, your RPMs going down pit lane, and it was all on the same speed marker, I believe, speed
It
marker
was.
7.
Yep.
And everybody was complaining that it was shorter than the other ones, so they think they had the calculations off. But not everybody got busted, so everybody
Yeah, but
seemed
a
like they were
lot of
doing the
people
right
got
thing.
busted in that spot.
The aggressive people for sure. And yeah, they just I don't know, they didn't get it right, and it was at a poor time, one of the worst times of the race to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of a bad time for someone on that racetrack, Kyle Busch, DNF. How many times in a row was that? 6?
A shit ton.
Yeah, it's a lot of times. Corey LaJoy, well, a little bit of bumping and racing, rubbing from Corey LaJoy and Kyle Busch, but after rewatching that little exchange, Corey LaJoy hits the back left, spins out Kyle Busch, and immediately said, "He just hooked himself." I don't know how you hook yourself when your car clearly drives right into the back back right bumper, turns up the racetrack to spin him out, and I forget Corey LaJoy's crew chief. I could get that for you in 1 second, but he says he got exactly what he deserved. So you know where they kind of stood on that little exchange.
Yeah, and that could be a little bit out of context. I was listening to Corey LaJoy's podcast and Denny's podcast and even Kevin's podcast. What do you think about that before I get into all this?
I don't know exactly. Ryan Sparks is the guy. I think Ryan Sparks was just heated that they'll like. It seemed like Kyle Busch wasn't racing the way that he probably should have been at the time. I don't think he was extra aggressive or malicious in anything he's done, but he definitely was a nuisance. And when Corey LaJoie obviously hit him, um, I think it was his fault.
So do you think Corey should be fined?
No,
He was not fined
I don't think
officially
he was. I
this week.
think that's normal racing.
Yeah, I think it's just aggressive racing. Um, and everybody that I've listened to is on the same boat. Like even Corey was like, "Yeah, it was definitely my fault," but it was just like an aggressive race move. Kyle Busch threw a block on him, and then Corey kind of went out wide and tried to get back in, and got his bumper a little bit, spun him out, and caused the big one, I think, of the Pocono race this past weekend. But Corey was saying, and it does show, he is a very conservative driver, day in and day out. He's not that aggressive. When he gets blocked or when other people are trying to merge in, like he usually, slows down, lets them in. He doesn't really hold his own. And his team gets on him about that a lot. So every once in a while, he's got to like prove like, hey, people can't just be cutting me off all the time. I need to hold my spot, and you can't just like merge in. You can't cut in on me all the time. So I think this was like a way he was being a little headstrong about it. Like, okay, I'm not gonna let Kyle Busch just move me all
Bully
around,
you around,
or
yeah.
like who else? Because he did. I think it was Kyle Busch earlier in the race. Kyle Busch or Corey LaJoie let Kyle Busch in when he did the same thing. So I think he was trying to get back and be like, hey, you can't do this all race long or
Right.
week in and week out. And he was sending a message, I think, to the rest of the field like, hey, I'm going to hold my own. I can't just let you guys bully me around the racetrack.
I
So I
like
feel
that
that
take.
Denny Hamlin also kind of was. He said almost the same thing. Like it was just hard racing. Not a whole lot you could do about it. It was Corey's fault, obviously. You got to let him in. But it's racing. Things
It's
happen.
racing. It's racing. Yeah, of course that did not end well for really either of them there, but that left a big question mark on this race. With 40 to go, everyone gets to go into the pits one last time, fill her up with gas, and go the rest of the way, hopefully under green flag. And that's where Blaney made his tremendous pit lane move up to first, and it was history after that.
Yeah, nobody was catching him. He just ran the
Oh,
rest of the race up front.
although
Except
Bowman
for
was.
Denny
So
and Bowman were both going for him.
Bowman was catching him pretty well, but even faster than Bowman catching Blaney, Hamlin was on his ass, and just during that process of Hamlin battling Bowman, just waiting to pass, getting the right opportunity, just by racing hard, they both slowed down a little bit, which didn't give them the push to get up to Blaney. And although Hamlin did get by Bowman, um, I think Bowman was a fast car. We talked how he if he finished the race, we'd be surprised after the drinking week he had.
Yeah, he had a
So
hell of a qualifier too. He was
yeah,
super fast. I did not see that coming.
right. So I think that maybe he just needs to get absolutely obliterated before every race. So I'm a
Yeah,
big
I
Bowman
support it.
fan now.
We got to get our logo on his car.
Yeah, actually, our faces, that'd be cool.
Not a lot of people have been talking about it, but what do you think about Denny finishing out stage 2 as the stage winner? Do you think he should have flipped the stages like everybody else was doing to get the win?
No, I think he still thought he had a chance, and he did. There was nothing that he really needed to do. He was confident enough that there was going to be enough going on in the back half of this race that he would have his opportunity, and that's exactly what happened to him. I mean, with a first place finish, he got the guaranteed playoff points. He's already up near the top of the playoff points, and he's obviously in the playoffs. It really helps getting past that first stage of 16 to be higher up in that, like, have those, points to start. So at this point, some of these guys, they're even though they're not really in that big playoff push, they wanna get, like, secure all those points that they can because, when it comes to that first race in Atlanta, well, the first few races there Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Bristol, you're gonna have guys like Cindric, Logano, Suarez, who have had mediocre years that are in the playoffs for sure, and if they have a good race here or there, then you have I mean, a guy that's been dominant all year like Hamlin just lost their spot. Just,
Yeah,
one DNF, like, can screw them.
but one stage win is only 1 point, 1 playoff point.
Everything
10
matters.
yeah, 10 regular season points for a stage win, but winning the race is 5 playoff points. Denny is a 7-time winner at Pocono, and he has not won a stage in any of the 7 wins until his first stage win was it was this past weekend.
Well, I
So he
mean,
knows the strategy. He knows he needs to flip the stages. And what does he do? He stays out and wins a stage. Why are you trying to win a stage? You're going to win the whole race.
so you have 39 race cars that are on that racetrack last week on Sunday. One person gets 5 points, and he saw an opportunity to guarantee 1. I mean, I
He's the
play it
favorite
safe
to
at that
win.
point.
He's won
I
7
get that.
times. He
I
knows how
get
to
that.
do it.
Dick, do you still saw the end of the race, right? Like, he had a chance to win that race. If he had a better pit, on, going into lap, 40, 40 to go, then he woulda won that race.
I mean,
I
he's
mean,
still
he still was the fastest
two and a
car at
half
the front of the
seconds.
I
He's
mean,
still 2.5 seconds off Blaney.
yes, but yeah, he was 2.5 off of Blaney, but he had to pass 2 other guys. He was still the fastest car out there. He gave himself a chance to do it.
Yeah, which just means he would have easily won if he just flipped the stages.
Okay, well, he got a guaranteed point, and racing is so strange. Where he could have flipped the stage, ended it in 20th, and then started the next stage in first, and then got caught up in wrecks. I mean, there was what 3 cautions in stage 3. Depending on where he would have been sitting in that crew, he could have got swung and hit and been out, and there's no points at all there. I think at this point in the season, these guys need points and they need to save their race cars.
I don't know. I think that applies to probably 90% of the drivers except for Denny Hamlin. I think say that to me for Alex Bowman or any other playoff driver, but give me Denny Hamlin, the probably best driver of the season, and you're telling me he's a 7-time winner of this race. He knows how to race the best here, and he knows the strategy. And you're just gonna tell him like, hey, you're gonna stay out and grab 1 point when you're by far the favorite to win the entire race, and you have the strategy to, and you're the best car.
How many stage wins has Martin Truex Jr. had this year? You
He
don't have
did
to answer that, but a good amount. And he's the last one. He's the first one in on points right now.
well. You need stage wins when
He's
you don't
never
have a
got a
win.
win. He's never got a win.
Yes, he won this past weekend.
Martin Truex.
Yes, sir.
What? Did you watch the race?
No.
Okay. Well, no, he did not win. I'm gonna chalk that up to your drink there. No, he did not. And he's got a lot of stage wins. He's got a lot of stage points, which is why he's sitting pretty right now. I don't think, I mean, of course, he'd like to have the guaranteed spot, but he's not sweating it right now.
He
I
is
think
still sweating it, but
he's not. No, the guys that are sweating it are Chris Busch or Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe. Josh Berry. I mean, I could keep
all right.
going.
Well,
These
when
are
we
the
make it
guys
to
that
we get to
haven't got
playoffs,
those stage wins. I mean, Ty Gibbs, he's in a decent spot because of the stage wins. I mean, you look at these guys that are just out. They're the ones that have collected these stage wins. It doesn't seem like much in the time. Like when you're in week 2 in Atlanta on February 25th, you're not really thinking about those stage wins to put yourself into a playoff position. But that's exactly what Ty Gibbs has done. He rocked those first, like, what, 6 or 7, 8 weeks, something like that, and he has still set himself up to be in a great position for the playoffs. I think we're gonna differ on this one, but stage points have been put into place for a reason, and I think it's smart to keep playing that up.
okay, whatever.
Let's move on and talk about the race winner Ryan Blaney.
I do want to backtrack real quick. Martin Truex won stage 1, so fuck off.
Oh, I thought you meant the race. I just said
No,
I
I said
told
how many.
you.
You asked me how many stage wins has Martin won this year, and I said he just won one.
Oh, I thought you meant like won a in like a yeah. Martin Truex Jr. has won a ton of stages. You're making my point. He's won a ton of stages. That's why he's sitting pretty
Yeah,
going
when you
into the
can't win a
playoffs.
race, you have to win stages to get the points. But Denny's already in.
Do you
He could
understand
he
how the
could he
playoffs
could risk
work?
it a bit because he's already in. Risk it to win the race to get more playoff points. You don't need 1 playoff point. You could get 5.
Well, I mean, look at the guys like Larson, Hamlin, Bell, Byron, Blaney. Wow, that's a lot of B's. But all those guys are sitting at the top. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but they're looking phenomenal going into. I mean, you'd say that they're gonna hit the like the first cutoff, or at least, or maybe even the second cutoff, just based on where they're gonna stand after the playoffs get started. I mean, that first cut is crucial. You're gonna lose a bunch of guys, and most of those guys are the weed out program. I call it the weed out program because these are the guys that made it on a whim, like a Cindric or a Suarez. They haven't had great years. They haven't been racing well, and they're in the playoffs on a whim. That's weeding them out because they don't have those stage points and the playoff points to boost them.
Yeah, you're proving my
Oh
point even
my
more.
god, no.
When you're in the playoffs, that's when you can stay out, get the stage points because you don't know what's going to happen. But when you're already in playoffs, you need more playoff
No,
points.
no, no. Look at
You don't
Keselowski. Keselowski's just getting hot now. He might not win another race. We'll talk about Indianapolis because I kind of like him there, but he
and
probably
I would
won't
even
win.
say,
No, give me a
bro,
second. Bro, no.
okay, yo.
Now you got me all screwed up. Keselowski has had a pretty poor year, a few stage points throughout the season, but he's sitting at what eighth place in the playoff standings right now. He has one bad race when the playoffs get started, and he is on the cut line. He's someone that should be fighting every inch for another stage win here, because he's probably not going to win any of these races coming up, minus maybe Indianapolis.
Yeah, but you know what's even better than a stage win that doesn't
A
guarantee
race
a
win, but
playoff position? A race win. Instead of Martin Truex staying
okay,
out and winning stage one is fine, whatever. If this was stage 2, then I would be arguing for Truex. But he gets a stage 1 win, fine. But if he had the opportunity to stay out, win stage 2, or, go in, flip the stages, and win the race, he gets in the playoffs right there.
there.
You would have to do that if you're a Truex. Denny, you're more aggressive. You need the playoff points. Same type of scenario. He's already
He
in the
needs.
playoffs. It doesn't matter if he finishes 30th.
Okay,
He
all
could
right.
get he has a
Let
chance
me
to get 5 playoff points.
we got to move on, but I just want to make one last point. He did not win the race. Yes, you're saying that maybe if he would have switched up and flipped the stages and bypassed the 1 point, then maybe after another 60 laps, he could end in first. You have 60 laps. So much can happen in those last 60 laps. But he saw an opportunity to claim that one guaranteed. Okay? 60 laps to try to make something happen, knowing he's the best race car on that track. He could go for a 6 point swing there. Okay, let's move on. That's big. Ryan Blaney wins it. Let's move on.
I like how we didn't talk about Blaney at all.
yeah, Blaney. Maybe Fords are back. I do like the fact that the Fords finally have some speed here on some bigger tracks. You can see that with Logano having a win here. Blaney with his second win. Looks like they're running pretty well right now. So I don't think I want to count them out, especially at a place well, coming up in the schedule, you got Indianapolis, you got Daytona still, you got Michigan, and then Atlanta. Like, I think it lends itself really well to how the Fords are starting to position themselves right now. Big change from the beginning of the year where you go basically back to back to back super speedways, and they were non-existent. So kudos to the Ford team for trying to figure that out and getting somewhere. So Ryan Blaney, you got anything else to add after that?
No, his burnout was half atrocious.
So
But
I read
it was
about
kind of
that.
cool. It was interesting, but
I
it
read
wasn't
about
a
that.
burnout. It's a
They,
half
yeah,
burnout.
it was a good car, and they still have that car scheduled to race again this year. So they didn't want to just completely trash everything in it.
Yeah,
So
the Blaney's not much of a burnout guy anyway. He always does the Polish victory lap going around backwards, around the track backwards, so he's facing the crowd, waving to the crowd, and his crew chief, I heard, is always in his ear like, "Hey, don't do a burnout, don't do a burnout." But like he also wants to make the fans a show, give the fans a show, so
yeah,
you gotta do a burnout every once in a while.
yeah, I think I'd like a little bit more action, but I get it if you're trying to be a responsible racer. Try to go back to back at this point.
But congrats, Blaney, congrats Fords on,
King,
getting it back into NASCAR shape.
that's right. Race number 22, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're back at the Brickyard 400, a 160 lap race around a 2.5 mile super speedway oval, but they call it an oval. To
It's
me,
a
it looks like a
rectangle.
rectangle. I love it. They got four identical corners that are 9 degrees. So it's a cool track. It's very different than a lot of other places, and so when we do get into our predictions, I mean something different. It's hard to predict somewhere like this because one, we haven't raced here since 2020, so that means not a lot of people have experience on it, especially a lot of these younger drivers. And even before that, we weren't consistently on the 2.5 mile track. So there's all kinds of other configurations here, and then we're not in Indianapolis every year. So
Yeah, I'm
let's
happy
let's go
NASCAR's
into
getting
this.
back to the oval. They were on the road course for a bit, and it's just not the same. You can't kiss the bricks on a road course.
I mean, they did.
They did. It's not the same, no.
It's not
You
the
want to
same.
win the super speedway version.
So we're going right into our picks. Oh, before we go too far, I just want to just recap our side bet from last week. Text says that if Kyle Busch wins, I get 100 points straight to my shootout points, straight out of Dick's bank. If Kyle Busch has another DNF, there's a 50-point swing towards Dick. And I thought there is absolutely no way that 6 races in a row Kyle Busch won't finish. I was wrong. And congratulations, Dick. You basically just sealed in your regular season win here. Unless we went absolutely wild on these last ones, but it's not it's not gonna be good anymore.
Hey, come playoffs, it'll be a whole different story.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make a new playoff game, and we're gonna make it very interactive for everybody and a lot more exciting. You guys will be able to watch the score as we go a lot more carefully, and it's gonna be a fun one. But Indianapolis, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Did you know this that it's the largest sports venue in the world? I did not know that.
No, I did not know
I
that.
I was just looking at the track today and saw that it can accommodate 250,000 fans and just the grounds around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is a historic landmark, by the way. Um, it is the largest in the world, so pretty cool.
Hmm, did not know that.
That's right. So not Dick's picks yet. We are in the shootout. So let's see. I went first last week. I took Denny Hamlin, which was a good pick. Unfortunately, everyone else in my team lost. So Dick, take it away.
Yeah, I am gonna go with someone you probably won't expect me to take first overall in this top half. I want to go with Joey Logano. Joey is a phenomenal driver here. Top 10 in 7 of 8 Indianapolis Motor Speedway races on the super speedway style. His worst finish is 13th, and he was passed for the win twice on the final couple laps. So Joey is awesome here, day in, day out. If you give me he and Fords are looking good as of late, last couple races, especially at Pocono. He came top 5, he came in 5th last year or last race. And yeah, Blaney won. So the Fords are picking it back up. They found something they like. So yeah, give me Joey in my first pick.
So actually, I'm not super surprised about that. I had him as you know I know that we always do Dick's picks, but we decided to change it up a little bit and see if I can try my hand at this. I actually had Joey Logano top five for a lot of the same reasons. We talked about Ford finally having some speed. Um, Logano has had four top six finishes in the last seven races. You talked about how he's been in Indianapolis over his career. And then I know that this isn't like a fully new race, but it's something relatively different from what we're normally used to seeing. And Joey Logano is phenomenal at adjusting to new things, like in a Cup Series car. Like he's won the first race at the LA Coliseum, which was such an interesting test. He won that. He won the first Cup championship in the new car, and then won the first Bristol Dirt Race. This isn't a new track, but it's something that's different. He adjusts to different things. His team is good at adjusting strategy. And it seems like just Joey learns really quickly on the fly and adjusts to things. So, um, I think that's a good pick, especially with his odds. So I think that's not a bad pick.
Yeah, and Joey hasn't necessarily shown speed throughout the year, but he's always seems to manage to be in that top 5, top 10 range just based on strategy alone. And like you said, he's good at newer tracks. So they haven't raced here in 4 years, so not a whole lot of experience for other drivers coming into this race. So yeah, I think Joey will definitely hold his own.
That's right. I'm between two drivers here, and I mean, we can talk about them both because I know neither one of us are going to be able to pick one. But let me go with Brad Keselowski, and I'll take the other guy as a another Dick's pick or Texas pick today. But let me take Brad Keselowski. So he's got one Cup win at the Brickyard 400. That was in 2018. He's got 11 starts here, and he's got top 10 six of those times. So he's a consistent driver on this track, consistently up at the top, and out of all the 39 drivers here, only two drivers have actually won a Cup race at this track. That would be Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. Um, and Brad Keselowski has 10 of his 36 career wins at tracks that were 2+ miles long. So this is kind of his little like it's not niche, but somewhere that he can perform. So I'm gonna go with a big bad Brad.
I am very impressed with your stats. That's usually my type of thing I bring into this podcast. So you took almost all the stats that I had, but I also scoped out and saw his average finish at super speedways longer than mile and a half, which is basically just Atlanta's only a mile and a half. His average finish is 19th at super speedways. So
Okay. So yeah, I did do some extra work. I was really bored today at work, so I did some diving deep into some old timey stats. Plus, I just didn't know what to expect here at Indianapolis, so I needed to refresh on everything. It's not easy to remember what happened, you know, before we even started watching racing.
yeah,
We
that's where they
just
get you
started in
a little bit.
2020. All right. So I do have a back half driver, and I was looking at it. I did all my research on one driver here and then realized that he was two spots out of the back half. So I'm having to change completely, which means I don't have all the stats that I would like to have. So just mostly because of the efficiency that Ford has had towards the back end on these bigger tracks and the newfound speed. Plus, Michael McDowell has actually had a surprisingly good back half of this season so far. I got a few unfortunate bounces, but he's one of the more experienced drivers in this field. Lots of young guys, and this is one of those tracks that not a lot of young guys have experience at. The older you go, the more experience you got, and even if it's not wins in the Cup Series and maybe not even wins in the Xfinity Series, he just has more track time out there. So I'm gonna take Michael McDowell, the 34 Ford.
It's an interesting pick. I don't have a lot on him. What was your pick? What were you gonna pick if he wasn't two spots out?
Well, when I first started looking at it, I was surprised Kyle Busch fell so far back, and I get it because he's been so bad recently. But Bush is the only racer, other than Brad, that has had wins here. He's actually won twice in a row, 2015 and 2016. He is in desperate need of a win. Besides everything we talked about earlier with getting stage points and everything like that, we know Kyle Busch does not have that. He needs a win at this point, and that's really the only way he can get in. And he had those back-to-back wins, 16 career starts here, 12 of them were top tens. If he was having a decent year, I would have easily picked him over Brad Keselowski based on those stats. But Brad has found that speed here in the last few races, and so um, that's why I would take Bush if I could have afforded him. But
See, because I was thinking about Kyle Busch as well, but he hasn't raced here with his new team. And yeah, he was a pretty dominant racer back in his old team. His average finish was 12.1 at this track in 16 starts. He has 2 wins as well and 12 top tens. So he's definitely a very good driver he knows how to race it. But I'm just not sure. He hasn't shown me anything this year. He keeps crashing out. Maybe it's a string of bad luck. Maybe he's doing something weird. I don't know. But yeah, I just can't pull trigger on him yet. Because I'm gonna have to stay away from him. Michael McDowell, maybe a good pick, but I don't have anything on him,
time will
so I'm
tell.
gonna have to trust you.
Time will tell.
My back half driver, I feel very confident in him. Noah Gregson, always going with him, but he has an average finish of 17.9 at super speedways. He has 3 top tens in 8 races. So I'm gonna go with Noah Gregson, I believe, unless you want to convince me otherwise.
No, I do think that's a good pick.
Because my other guy I was thinking about, Todd Gilliland, 9 top 20s in a row
mm,
up
yeah,
until
but
Pocono.
I mean
And
that's like being a 50% baseball team, like going
yeah, but for a back
500.
half driver, what more do you want from him? You know,
Okay.
he hasn't raced here in Cup Series or even Xfinity, so I don't know how he's going to perform here. New track for him, whatever. Same for Gregson, I believe. But his average finish is 12.8 at Talladega with 5 starts. And Talladega isn't the best comparison, but it's the closest comparison I found for him. And yeah, so he's decent at super speedways, and he is a pretty hot driver as of late, other than up until last week. And I think he crashed out once when that big crash with Bush and LaJoy.
That's right. No, Gregson or
No, Gilliland.
Gillen. Oh, okay, yeah. Gregson crashed out early.
Yeah, Gregson spun into the wall, but even he was putting up a good run last week until that happened.
Yep. No, I think that's a good pick. You're sticking with Gregson though.
I will stick with Gregson. Yep.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. He's hot, hot young fella out there. I don't mean that in any sort of sexual way. Let's move on then.
Unless.
All right, your random number generated driver is the 14th in odds, which would be a Bubba Wallace.
Awesome. This is a track Bubba Wallace should excel at. I mean, he's known for his super speedways and everything. I alluded to it last week. Michigan and Pocono are probably his 2 best racetracks, and this is very similar to Michigan, Indianapolis. So Bubba Wallace top 10 last week. He has top 10 in the last 2 Indianapolis Motor Speedway races, and that, like I said, the top 10 at the Pocono. So I mean, he's looking decent as of late, and I think this is a track that really fits him. So I am happy with that random pick. I finally get someone good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say good. I think he is a good random driver. I just have a hard time getting past that. He only has 7 top 10s in the entire season. I mean, we're 22 races in, and he's supposed to be a driver that is making a push at the championship 4. I mean, if you would have talked to him before the season started and talked to Denny, and then watched the Netflix documentary on the what was that? Full Speed? Is that what it was called?
Something like that on Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. But you would have expected him to be a lot higher. This is a very disappointing season so far. But it's time for him to prove something. He has come in clutch the last 2 years right at the end of the season to get into the playoffs, so I like it. Random dumb number generation for me. Holy crap. 32 out of 39. That's gonna be Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I mean, just for being that far back, I think that's one of the better picks back there. Ford, no, sorry, not Ford, Chevy. He's at plus 40,000. I really didn't have much prepared for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but he's one of those guys that's been around a while, so he's got laps here. But
Yeah, Ricky's average finish at super speedway is 21.3. He's just not the best driver year in and year out. He did win Daytona. He does show up sometimes at super speedways. So I don't have a whole
I mean,
lot
he was in the
here on
right
him
place at the
in
right
the.
time. That
Yeah, but
that
that's what you
Daytona
need.
race,
I mean,
eh,
at super speedways, you just have to be in the right place at the right time.
that's
Get
true.
out of the crashes.
So that concludes our shootout, but there's some other guys I want to talk about. And with that being said, I'm going to get right into Texas' pick this week just because that covers a few of the other guys. I can't believe no one has mentioned Kyle Larson here. He is the only race car driver, besides the guys that have tested out the tires, that have practiced and raced here on this track this season. He's definitely got the most laps there. I mean, yeah, they were in IndyCar, but if anyone can translate that experience, it's Kyle Larson.
See,
I
I want
mean,
to get on Kyle Larson. He's raced that Indy 500 this year. He knows the track. He's just, an all around good racer. He can race any car at any course, and he'll just be good. He'll figure it out. Um, he's just not good at super speedways, and I can't pull trigger on him.
I just would say like he's the best driver all around, and he's got one of the best cars every week. He's got one of the best crew chiefs in the whole garage, and if I already mentioned it before, but his crew chief made that right call and got Larson up to the front at the end of the race, set him up perfectly, and of course he sped and got caught with that penalty,
That's
and that's
exactly what
the
I
only
mean.
reason.
Kyle Larson just makes mistakes. A
I know,
lot of
but
mistakes this year. He's more likely to make a mistake than not make a mistake. So
well,
I think his odds at
he made
plus
his
600 to
mistake.
win.
He made yeah, that's why I like that. I like him. That's why he's one of my picks. I would
It
say
it is one
for
of the
being
longer odds of the season for him. So
right,
if you're gonna
and
do it,
he's
do
the
it.
I don't know how that is the case when he has drived on this track. Drived.
He drived it.
He's driven on this track already this year. I mean, plus historically he's great in Michigan. It's one of the tracks that have a little bit of similarities here with the just the size and the horsepower that they use. And I mean, he's one of the best drivers in the field week in and week out. I am definitely going to be betting him plus 600. I can't believe that.
I don't know if you want me to rate is this your official text pick?
Hey, I think you got to rate it. No, I got more.
Okay, is that official?
Well,
Because
yeah,
I'll
it's
rate this.
official.
I think this is a B plus. I'll go to B plus.
I don't know why
Uh,
you get to say that because, I mean, I would rate a lot of your C's and D's every once in a while, and you can rate it after you see that I bet a unit on 600 and win big.
okay. Well,
My unit
his
is
average
$2,
his
by the way.
average finish his average finish at Indy over his 6 races is 16th, and his best finish is 5th. He's really not great at super speedways. His average finish at super speedways over 2 miles is 22 and a half. So I
Hmm.
don't see. I mean, he could figure it out easily, but he's more likely to make a mistake than he is to have put a whole race at a super speedway together. So
I think
just because of
the
that, I'm
entire year
gonna stay away.
I think this entire year he's been all like he's made more mistakes this year because he's so worked up about the whole idea that he was going to be racing IndyCar and NASCAR in the same year. Had the documentary following him around, but you know what that made him focus on is frickin' Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And if there's one place that he should know by like the back of his hand right now, it's the Indianapolis track. So we don't need to fight about it. We fought enough on this episode. Just let the money talk at the end.
I
All
will
right, let's move
say
on.
I will
What?
tail that pick, and I'm gonna go the opposite direction. Larson at over 7.5 finishing position. So finish 8 or worse at -150.
You're being a dick right now. I mean,
Well, that's
you're
what they
only
call
doing that
me.
because of me. All right, you know what? Let's put another side bet. Give me 300 extra, just so we can make this last little bit of the season interesting. Give me 300 shootout points if Kyle Larson wins this thing. I'll give you another 50 if you get your bet. If he is 7, and we
Okay,
push
I
if
will
he
deal with
falls
that.
2nd to 6th or 2nd to 7th, right?
Yeah, I'll take that
So
deal.
for Larson win. All right, I had to write
This
that
is
down. I
why
would forget.
this is why I'm the one making the money and you're betting like a fan right now.
Dude, no, I'm not betting like a fan. I mean, I just said everything that should make sense, I think. All right, I got a few more. Alex Bowman over Bubba Wallace. Bowman has had a pretty good few weeks here. Win at Chicago, 3rd at Pocono. He was quick at Pocono too. If he wasn't fighting off Hamlin, he probably would have stayed in 2nd. I know that that didn't really make sense. A faster driver beat him, but that's 12 top 10 finishes in 21 races this year. Bowman's starting to really hit, and Bubba Wallace is really not starting to hit. He's had some really bad luck. We just talked about the 7 top 10 finishes over the year. Um, this matchup has happened 8 times this year, and Bowman has won all of them. So I'm going with it.
Bowman has been looking fast the last couple races too, and I'm just surprised at his speed at Pocono. I was not expecting that,
I
which makes me
definitely did
want
not think that.
to agree with you, but I don't again. Bowman's best finish here is 21st.
Bowman is young as hell. It was probably when he was 16 years old that he raced here.
Likely, but he only finished on the lead lap once.
Dude, I'm thinking that his only starts here have ever been when he was 14, 15, and 16 years old then.
Could potentially be. But I'm not going to officially go against you, but I do like Bubba here. I would just stay away from the bet personally. But I could see where you're coming from because he has been fast, and just because of recency bias, I will not bet against him.
All right.
So I will grade that a.
So you're really gonna not like this one. Well, maybe you will. But you liked Bubba, but you also like Alex Bowman, but you don't like him over Bubba, so you're not gonna like the plus 110 for Bowman to go top 10. Would you?
No, I would not. Just because I don't know if Bubba will really finish top 10. So I think whoever wins that matchup will be like a 12th ish, which is
I mean,
really, it's just outside the top 10. So if you're going to bet that, then maybe get that top 10 in you. But
Bowman has well, there's no way Bubba's finishing in the top 10. I mean, I didn't look at the odds for that to say he's not gonna finish top 10, but I would go out on a limb and say that's almost a for sure. Um, and Bowman's gonna beat him. That might not mean he's gonna go top 10, but Bowman has obviously those 12 top 10 finishes this year. And although there's no direct comparison to this track, some of the bigger intermediates this season, like obviously 3rd at Pocono last week, 9th at Charlotte, 7th at Kansas, 8th at Texas, and just good things to come from Alex, and good things that were coming from him the last few weeks. So Bowman top 10. And then let me round it out. I know what you already said about that one. Joey Logano, top 5. You already have him winning the place. We already talked about exactly why. He's plus 225 to win this thing, or to go top 5. I like that, especially if you really think he's going to win. And
I love that bet as
so
well. That would have been a dick
we're going to
pic
go
on
with it.
my end. Yeah, plus 225. I cannot believe the odds are that high on this. He's been freaking great here. Like I put all those stats out earlier, and yeah, plus 225. Grab that before it moves. It's probably gonna move here soon. So
Is it going to
just
move?
go get that.
Ooh, move.
So A plus on that.
Hey, thank you. Thanks. So what's that average me out at?
It's like a. I don't do math.
It's an F. No, I had an A minus, an A plus, a B minus, and what'd you put the
B plus. So yeah, it averages out like an A ish. A minus ish.
Sweet, sweet.
B plus
Hey, that
ish.
was my
A.
first Texas pick, and so I like it. Dick, You got anything else for me today?
Nope, unless you want to drink a bit more after this.
Yeah, I think I'll drink a bit more. We're having a good time here. We like doing this. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it too. We drink, they drive. You guys join us back next week after the Indianapolis not 500, the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're on our way into the Olympic break, so we're gonna have a relatively quick episode to wrap up Indianapolis, and then stay tuned because we're going to have some fun these next 2 weeks. See you next time.